Warner Brothers Discovery makes U-turn on closure of writers and directors workshop, moves initiative to diversity unit. But before we get into that part of it, we are going to first go through the original, what led to this incident, which says Warner Brothers TV layoffs, studio cuts 26% of the workforce between unscripted, scripted, and animation divisions. And then the animation and unscripted divisions are merging functions.
Yeah.
So we looked at the original number. It was 125 total positions were cut from their Warner Brothers television division. I immediately thought, I was like, it's that small, that 26% is 125 people only, but it's just the television division of this company. Obviously, Warner Brothers is a much larger media apparatus.
So the 82 people they fired, their positions have been eliminated too?
Yes.
What were they?
They're merging with other departments or with people that were probably coming in from Discovery.
Okay.
So it says, Deadline revealed Monday that the cuts would likely come today and revealed that earlier that Warner Brothers TV was shutting down digital production arm Stage 13 in its Warner Brothers Television Workshop, a key plank in finding and mentoring new and diverse talent. Well, there was a lot of unhappiness when they found out that they were cutting this workshop, which apparently from the research that I gleaned from like hearing people on like insiders talk about it in the comments, which a lot of the people on Deadline, whether they're telling the truth or not, talk about how they work in the industry, because it's an industry website, right? Like most people aren't checking Deadline or Variety and stuff like that. And basically they're saying that out of like all the studios, they have to have some similar type of program that's designed for mentoring young directors and writers. It's part of their the collective bargaining agreement with the Directors Guild of America. Yeah,
the selling point of putting the Writers Directors Workshop into the DEI division is that they'll be able to go beyond just potential writers and directors and get like animators, music people, any type of person into a mentorship.
But the thing is, they kept talking about cuts like that, like the really annoying one was like the whitewashing of Warner Brothers. I'm like, 26% is going to be a lot more than one race, ethnicity, or gender.
Right.
A lot of people are going to lose their job, and making it about that is annoying to me.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, people are definitely mad that is it because their positions are redundant?
Yeah, because they're likely going to merge with other divisions of Discovery, which is the company that bought out Warner Brothers.
Right. So why wouldn't they just say it's because of racism? That's why.
They'll call it streamlining.
Yes.
Right.
Synergy. I love corporate speak. Synergy, which nobody actually knows what that means. Only if once you're anointed the position of CEO, you're given the dictionary for what all those words that they use mean that nobody in the real world actually says.
You go,
Their
it's all
Chief
nonsense.
Global Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer.
What does that mean?
Said, by continuing this successful Warner Brothers TV initiative through the DEI division, we ensure that Warner Brothers Discovery's continued commitment to training and development continues. Additionally, this is a strong example of how DEI plans to leverage our recently announced creative council to best align with our internal partners.
That's
like they just keep going and going with this synergy language, and I don't understand it. This is not a human language.
No, normal people don't talk like that.
This is social engineering is so the opposite of actually like being compassionate. Or understanding or profitable or efficient.
Well, even think about talking like that. It's like when you listen to somebody talk like that, it's not like that's anybody's individual experience. No one person writes like that. No one person talks like that.
Person who was mad on Twitter that actually made a good point. He said, if you are mad about Zaslav cutting this, like before the news came out that they was back, if you want Zaslav gone, unsubscribe from HBO Max.
Yeah.
Don't watch House of the Dragon, and that will show him. In fact, it's the only way to do that. Otherwise, he's called your bluff. And he said this news is a bummer, but are we shocked that the guy they hired to make cuts is making cuts? No, we're not.
$3 billion was what they said they needed to make when Warner Brothers and Discovery merged. They said they needed to make $3 billion in cuts to move towards profitability, right? Mm-hmm. So They canceled Batgirl, and they canceled Scoob, and they canceled all these other programs that
canceled that J.J. Abrams
I forgot
series.
the name of it. It even had a pretentious name. I forgot the name. It was this really pretentious Demimonde or something like that. And they gave J.J. Abrams like a $250 million contract like a year ago, and he's done exactly nothing with it.
Wow.
Like nice work if you can get it. Where they just give you like he's actually making stuff for
I
like
thought that
Apple
was a finished series though.
No.
Demimonde.
The others, but they gave him like an open contract. Remember, he was supposed to do the Black Superman movie that they were pitching with Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Oh, okay. There was some other finished series that got canceled recently.
As if anybody wanted to see a Ta-Nehisi Coates Superman movie ever in the history of the world.
It's just like gay Superman.
Yes,
that got cut too.
And that comic just got canceled.
They probably knew that was going to happen. This already happened in the comic book industry, trying to, I'm not going to even say like wokeify, but trying to like super diversify all these characters unnecessarily. Like no one's calling for it. Yeah. Or no, there were people calling for it, but the people who were calling for it weren't the people who actually consume the media. So, people are saying, why aren't there enough fat disabled people in superheroes? And so they're like, all right, we'll make Thor that.
Yeah.
And then the comic comes out and no one buys it, of course.
Well, and then you get to take that incel because the first one will do well because the collectors and the speculators will buy that first issue to sell it or to hold on to it because it's some type of milestone. It's a fake milestone. It's not an actual accomplishment. It's kind of like in baseball right now, pardon the sports analogy, but in baseball there's this weird focus on like weird statistics that don't really matter. Mm-hmm. Like they talk about spin rate on the ball and they talk about all these statistics that don't actually change your enjoyment of the game.
That's how all sports statistics sound to me.
But like in that industry, right? So they can do that to those characters, but they never do it to new characters. They never make new characters because those don't sell because you have to use the same characters and just change them.
Yeah.
Which is funny too because they made one character DC did 2 years ago called the Silencer that everybody actually really liked, and it was like it's a strong independent woman and she's black and I believe she's married. I think she's actually straight in it, and that shocked everyone at the time because they're like, "Holy crap!" But like that.
Why is that shocking?
Because
you have to
they
pick one.
Because they would have normally just made.
If they're white, they have to be gay.
And
if they're not white, then you don't have to make them gay.
But people actually liked that character, and then they just don't do anything with it because they don't have the years of name recognition built up with your 9 different versions of Batman that you have right now.
Right? Yeah, it's not.
Well, what about
huge
Snowflake
brand.
and Safe Space? Those are original intellectual property. What happened to those guys?
And then
that was insensitive to their gender identity.
Leave Snowflake. My favorite part of that was like they're like, he's a jock. I'm like, he's not. I don't know what school you went to where that guy's a jock, but that guy is not a jock in any school.
Was that DC or Marvel?
That was Marvel.
All right, so I think what they should do with those characters is wait 20 years and then have like a really gritty, well-written storyline where they bring back like all these lost characters, kind of like make it like The Boys or something, and it has all the trans and disabled and the characters that were quickly forgotten about or discontinued.
And there was the one that had like the power that he got through internet gas, which they never explained what the frick that actually is. Like he can control the internet or something like that. So
what was he called?
The New Warriors. That was the name of that comic series.
Okay.
That was based off that. Even that's like a rehash. So it says both workshops have been a popular and sought-after avenue for training emerging writers and directors. And then they do make reference to Regina King, who directed The Rings of Power. That's a weird flex because The Rings of Power is awful. But the rest of them seem fair enough. Like they mentioned Lovecraft Country, which I believe was one of those ones that got actually halfway decent ratings, but then got canceled anyway, probably because of production budget was too high to justify. And remember that was like, did you see that? It's based on like H.P. Lovecraft, but it's like, it's like an all black cast.
Oh, because they want to spite Lovecraft
because they don't like
because they
Lovecraft.
think he was racist.
Yeah, but they also mentioned Jonathan I. Kidd and Sonia Winton Odaminton, which is from Animal Kingdom, and then also House of the Dragon writer and co-executive producer Charmaine Degrade, which is like that's a fair enough. House of the Dragon's doing very, very well right now, so
Is
that
it?
could speak strongly to the talent that could be coming out of those diversity workshops, right? But for writers and directors. But apparently these are programs, all major studios that have collective bargaining agreements with the Directors Guild of America and the Writers Guild of America have to have some type of mentorship pipeline for those areas to put people forth in the industry.
And that's just to create positions so more people get paid. I don't.
A lot of the comments were saying that a lot of them, like they end up, they do a couple of seasons on some shows and then they kind of like, they don't really last. I don't know if that's because they're not talented enough or is it even possible that like, a writer who had to make it on his own, say that writer that comes out of that program is really talented and that's fine, but like they're automatically kind of getting second guessed because they came out of a mentorship program that somebody else might feel like they didn't have access to. So there might be a little bit of like resentment there even.
Right.
But I think it's entirely fair to say that they had the upper hand.
Who?
And maybe like the people who were taken up into the mentorship program. I mean, that's a whole other conversation about, affirmative action or whatever. But like, that's not unfair to say, especially when the products that are coming out of it, Rings of Power especially, are not good.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit hung up on Rings of Power because I was just thinking about like how this is supposed to be a prequel series to the rest of it, and like if if all of these societies, all of these races are ethnically diverse
They just
in the
wiped
beginning,
out.
what happened?
Yeah.
In the in-between time,
Makes you wonder.
what happened to them?
Maybe they'll write it in. It'll like end with like a dwarf ethnic cleansing.
They're like putting this on Tolkien like he wrote some kind of mass genocide into.
What if they did that? What if that was like the end goal of this was just to really
To
discredit?
frame him.
Yeah, to really discredit Tolkien.
It's so weird.
This is one of the comments from the article. It says, let's be clear, this is complete and utter BS. We all know that when writers get hired through diversity programs, they get a position for a season and the studio picks up the cost, SW, staff writer position. And the studio picks up the cost. Then they get fired by the show so that the show doesn't have to promote them. Then the show hires a new free staff writer for the next season and so on and so forth. This is why we have so many women and people of color who never advance beyond low-level writing jobs. These companies need to step up. So what I wanted to point out was like, after they went back, now the people didn't know initially why they reinstated this program. I believe it is because of the collective bargaining agreements. These people might believe that it's because they spoke up about it. But even when they do what they want and they bring the program back, it's still never enough. Like they're still going, like remember, there's always more work to be done.
It's never enough because it's a problem in the first place that it would cross their mind to get rid of the program.
How dare you? How very dare you?
Even if they wanted to replace it with something that could be better.
Yeah.
We don't know.
They say that they could be wrong, but Donald Glover was an example of an entry-level writer recruited through one of these programs who ended up becoming a successful showrunner. But wasn't he, like, rapping well before?
He was independently popular on the internet for a Derek comedy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they were already, like, a huge successful comedy troupe. And so, I mean, I have no idea why he'd even have to go through that program.
Yeah, like he actually made his way on merit.
Right.
Yeah. So... and then, so they're merging a bunch of divisions. I imagine that this will end up being more of a problem for them than us. I don't think it's going to cut back on the content that we're seeing because most of that process is so streamlined that they're going to make those adjustments.
Some people think that when it comes to Cartoon Network intellectual property, they're going to get rid of new shows in favor of rebooting old ones for the nostalgia factor because... They have crossed over Warner Brothers Animation Studio with Cartoon Network Studios.
Which, by the way, that scares me more than anything because if there's one thing Warner Brothers can do without screwing up most of the time, it's animation.
But Cartoon Network has already been on a downhill trajectory for a long time.
I'm speaking more of like their superhero adaptations for animation is really, really good. Like their track record is far better than their track record for live action movies. They hit like probably about 750 or 800 on their animated superhero stuff. Their box office for actual regular live action ones far, far, far lower and well below 500, I would say.
Yeah, it's weird that they keep rebooting these old shows. I'm so confused. It's like, are they just stuck in this weird loop, or do these reboots of another Scooby-Doo reboot, is that actually making more money than putting out a good show?
I know a Velma series is not. It's going to be canceled after 1, maybe 2 seasons.
Right.
And then
the second season is the one where she's gay. The first season is the one where she realizes that she's gay. And then they're going to cut it for tax purposes, like always, and then blame it on the incels for whom it was not made.
But it was actually made because they talked about them in the trailer.
But it was made for them.
Did you see that trailer where they trashed the fans the whole time?
No, I haven't seen it yet, but they keep doing this. I forget what the other show was, and it was already getting bad hype. And before the show even came out, they were like tweeting out, this show is not for the haters and for like all these people. It's like
She-Hulk, maybe.
I think it was She-Hulk.
She-Hulk, but not just that. Also, Reva from
Reva and Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi.
That might have been what it was. It was just weird. It's like, why are you picking a fight with potential viewers or potential fans?
It's called fan. It's actually got the name. Like, I think the Critical Drinker actually coined the term fan baiting. That's a viable marketing strategy now. The idea,
and they're reframing the debate, because in that teaser trailer for Velma, she's making fun of the haters who say that they want everything to be the same again, and if they bring back Velma, she better look exactly the same as she always has and act the same, and you can't change anything about her. But like, no one asked for Velma anything. Nope. That was the point. That's why you're getting Backlash. No one wanted Velma to come back at all, in any iteration, looking any type of way, being sexually attracted to any type of person. No one asked for a Velma series.
Yeah, isn't she 14 anyways? I mean, are they trying to write
They're
it?
They're adults now, I believe.
I mean, they can change whatever they want, so it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, right. And why inject that in the first place?
Because they're just bitter. Like, I really do believe that a lot of them are just bitter.
I mean, Mindy Kaling, the woman voicing Velma this time around, I think she believes that it's more a show about her than about Velma.
That's
which
weird.
Is bizarre.
They're in a weird bubble where they have no grasp of how the audience is perceiving any of this.
Well, that gets worse and worse every year too. It's why it's really funny, because then like I think it's a ploy to make like even like the most B movie seem like okay. Like I went to Uncharted and I liked it just because it was so not offensive to anyone. Like Mark Wahlberg is so inoffensive and Tom Holland is so inoffensive. Is it like the video game? No, but you know what? They didn't call me a piece of crap for wanting it to not be crappy, and you know, sometimes that's the best you can hope for, is that they don't treat you like crap.
Well, Billy Eichner just found this out with Rose. I mean, interesting strategy. I mean, he is a comedian, but like it didn't work by saying this is not for straight people. For someone like me, I go, okay, I guess I just will not watch that movie. I don't really care.
Also, like rom-coms are already a subcategory that's limited, and not successful in the last 20 years.
It's a super niche.
But if they are successful, it's among straight women.
Yes, and they were banking on
men, whether they're gay or straight.
They were banking on straight women. That
yassing at the movie.
and he, of course, his type of comedy is so annoying anyways. I can't stand his comedy or his on the street. Like, I hate his on the street stuff.
I don't mind it because it's always see it in small clips, but if that was a movie, I could not hear more than 3 sentences of him trying to string together, just screaming at me.
Yeah. So, what I would like to ask Warner Brothers, if we're going to talk back to like what they need to greenlight to make their $3 billion cut, if they're going to make all these cuts, what is something like, maybe they should be asking themselves this question. We're a little bit off topic, but what is something that they could bring back that could do with a modern reinterpretation? I imagine something like that exists. I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Modern reinterpretation implies something negative already.
I know. I'm saying,
so you can't do it right.
I'm trying to think if there's like something that was like so hated that they could then repackage as something else.
But the things that were hated aren't remembered. Well, just like all of the series that they end early now.
Yeah, I mean they brought back Looney Tunes, and I didn't think it was bad, but
Yeah.
I'd still rather watch the originals.
Same with Muppets.
Yeah, so like a bad show from the past that was Warner Brothers that they.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember any.
Yeah.
I can't even think of any.
And there's just nowhere to go for these companies, which is like, but they've spent the last 20 to 50 years building IP like turning their companies into basically IP vaults, right? Where they own all of this stuff that was once successful, and that's where their money is bare. Like, why spend money making new stuff when you've spent all this money acquiring other things? That's
Once that goes to the public domain, it is over for them.
What happened with Winnie the Pooh? Have they
That
actually
is in
done
the public
anything?
domain.
That is the public
and
domain now.
They are going to make a comedy slasher film.
Yeah, I heard about that.
him.
So I could make a Winnie the Pooh comic book series or write them into anything, but still somehow
it can't be that
or Steamboat Willie.
Yeah, it can't be
Right.
that
Also on
exact
the table.
interpretation. There's whole channels dedicated to like open source and like public domain comics and stuff like that. Like the guy I mentioned earlier, Zach from Comics Matter, says he's got a whole plan for like a 5-year plan for like the stuff he's going to write when certain characters enter the public domain.
Yeah, because so you can't really base your character off of a previous storyline because that story is not in public domain. So I don't know where Batman is, if it's in public domain yet. But
No, not yet.
There's so much stuff that you just couldn't use. They say, sure, the image of him you can eventually use, but
Can't have a butler.
right.
Can't have like, you know what I mean? Like they're like all that. So it's like can't have a commissioner. Can't have any of the stuff that actually
Can't
makes
have
him.
Batmobile.
Can't have a Batmobile. So I would like to see them put more money. Like I feel like a broken record, but it's like, could you guys just make something new? But like I go over this question in my head all the time. Like, is it laziness or is it just they have a certain business model? Remember, Bob Iger spent 10 to 12 years buying stuff just so that they could own these properties. They're not going, and that's of course Disney. I know that that's not Warner Brothers, but that's what these companies' strategies are, right? Like buy it, own it, and then release it every few years before you lose the rights to certain characters. That's what happened when they release a Spider-Man every so many years, not necessarily because they need to release a new Spider-Man movie, but because they don't want Marvel to reacquire the rights.
Like the Hulk. I mean, the first Hulk movie, they only made it because they were right on the verge of losing the rights to the character, so they just came out with this Ang Lee crap, and then
I still would prefer
rebranding.
that to the I hate the Mark Ruffalo.
I'm done with superhero movies. I can't watch them anymore.
Yeah, like we're kind of like, it's one of those things we talk about it a lot, and I have interest in certain aspects of it. But like when we went and saw the Batman, I was just like,
I like the Batman,
and I should have liked it, but it was too long. Like, and we gave it a fairly good, like I gave it a fairly good review, but I watched it again and I liked it less the second time around.
Okay.
And usually, if a movie even gets to a second viewing for me, I'm going to like it more the second time around.
Right.
And I didn't. Like,
yeah, maybe I just felt it the first time, but really analyzing it, you go, oh, this is kind of weak or something. I know it was definitely a split audience where people either loved it or hated it.
Yep. Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.
Bye.